Hey everybody, welcome to another video from Making the Past Present. Welcome to my front porch on a very rainy May morning. Today's video is going to be about trekking. I just did an event this past weekend at Martin Station, their annual May event, where I was asked to fill in and do a talk on trekking and the women's aspect of trekking or scouting, whichever way you want to call it. I just finished doing a 20-mile, 3,605-foot elevation trek that week through the Cumberland National Forest. We went up it was Chadwell Gap, across the ridge behind Martin Station, down Chadwell Gap, and at Wilderness Road Campground is where we ended up ending. I didn't get a lot of pictures, so I may attach them to the end of this, or I may save it and do a different type of video with them later. I haven't decided. But this video is the talk that was done. Jenny Slover kindly came and recorded it, so everybody gets the chance to see it. I hope you all enjoy. If you have questions or comments, or want to get more involved in trekking scouting, please let me know. You can message me down here at the bottom of YouTube. You can send me a Facebook message. Just look my name up. And have fun and enjoy. Enjoy like we did doing all of this. See you guys soon. Bye. We're actually probably expecting Zan Lerner. She had some family emergencies, so we got picked and you're stuck with us. So I am Laura Supinger. This is Cole White. We just got done with a 3-day 20-mile, 3,605-foot elevation trek. We had originally planned to trek in yesterday, but we canceled it. So we started all the way down there, walked that ridge, and then came down. Why we did that, I think we're a little crazy. But we do have documentation that actually families and women specifically hiked that area. So we decided to try and recreate it. And it was fun, it was exciting, and I don't know if I would ever do it again. But
well, you're still able to stand, so it's not like you're.
That's why I have a walking stick. No, yeah, I can keep walking. It's one of those you can't talk about it until the next day, because the night you stop, you're just like, no, never, ever again will I ever do it. I don't know how you felt about it.
I'm ready to go right now. You want to go right now?
She's the crazy one. No, I would probably go do it again. So that's why we did it. For me, at least, it was recreating the historical aspect, and I loved Martin Station, and I wanted to do something for it. So coming in was what I wanted to do. I do have a couple of sources that talk about women coming out this way, that they would actually walk the whole way from Virginia, North Carolina to Kentucky. One family stopped just south of Martin Station, and that's where she stopped. And so the women were actively walking out here to Boonesboro and all these places. So me doing 20 miles, going my legs hurt, makes me feel really horrible right about now, because they're doing 40 miles a day. And we did 20 in 3 days. Of course, we did survive the gale storm up at the very top of the ridge.
We did 20 technically in 2 days and didn't hike at all one day because of the weather.
We did hunker down the one day. It just didn't look right, so we decided we're going to stay where we're at, because we didn't know what was down this way. We knew what was down that way. We were not going back down that again. So that's what we did. We stayed one day. So we did 20 miles in about 2 days. And I would highly recommend somebody doing it, but make sure you talk to somebody who's done it before. There's plenty of water. Some of our trails were completely creek beds. So we're trying to follow the creeks and hoping it's also the trail at the same time. That was fun. But we had plenty of water in order to carry. That helped. So as for our gear, you can tell we each have something different. Mine is a Shelly Geyer. She's over that way if you want to talk to her about it. I always tell people, always try it a few times before you settle on something. I settled on this. I did not like that kind, and I did not like the pack basket. It just did not fit me very well. I also know there's very little documentation about the pack basket. These are more documented with the guys wearing it, so I borrowed it from somebody. You just have to decide what you want to use and go from there.
And mine is the Reproduction O pack. It's been modified to fit my frame size. It's the same thing. There's not documentation for women using these things. We don't really know what they were using to carry anything that they were bringing over, but we know you can't go that many miles without something or relying on someone else to carry all of your stuff for you. This is probably the third iteration of how I've handled carrying my own bedroll, my oilcloth, and my blanket. And it's my favorite. I love it. I could have this on. You'll see, like, hasn't she put that down yet? But it actually feels perfectly fitted, comfortable. That was not difficult with this pack at all.
Now I modified mine with a second chest strap because it helped distribute the weight on my body a lot better, and I was able to carry more stuff and not really feel the weight till the end of the day. When it came off, I'm like, wait, I don't have weight on. So it's really up to you, but that's...
So what is in those packs? What do you need to
Life.
survive?
That's another reason to practice trek. As our women's group, we do something called light night, so it's a mile in for a night and then a mile back out, and then we sit around and figure out what did we need, what didn't we need. As for me, I no longer carry a Tomahawk. I have not used it in the past 3 challenge treks, which are 3 days or more, over 10 miles. Haven't used it once. Not carrying it anymore. That's extra weight I no longer need. I have a little box lantern. Sometimes I carry it, sometimes I don't. I'm leaning more towards not needing it. Once I'm ready for bed, why do I need it? I'm not going to need it until the morning. I carry my food back here. I'm doing more cold camps than anything else. And that goes into planning, which we can talk about here in a few minutes. I carry my food. I'll carry a spare set of socks, at least 2 spare sets, because like this weekend everything was so wet. Every other day I was changing out my socks to try and stay somewhat drier. I carried a clean shift because we know the gentlemen, when they came in, would change into all clean clothes, so I had clean clothes to wear on my way back in. One thing that we do carry that is modern, and I will not bend on it, and I insist everybody carries at least one, or somebody does, is a water filtration system. I got dehydrated on one of the parts, and because I had that filtration system, I was able to rehydrate quickly. You can hide it if you want. I don't care, but carry something. And that also goes into planning and all of that. But that's mostly what I carry in this. So this is actually a journal. Carry a journal and note on things that I want to remember. But I really don't carry much in here because this was about as heavy as I had it, minus the food, the whole time. It was my tarp and bedroll that are way too heavy.
And for me, I've got clothing. So I always bring dry socks to wear at night, spare pair of silk socks to wear under my wool socks when we're actually hiking. For this, I packed a little more again because we knew we'd be around civilization and need to be nicer. So I did bring a spare shift and a spare petticoat, which is nice, padded things out better. Fire starting supplies, which consists of sulfur matches and a little tin with all of the necessary stuff for flint and steel.
I have that too.
I do have the candle box, but again, I never use it, but it's not taking up enough space for it to matter for me. I always carry extra rope. I'm the rope person of the group and always have stuff and strings stuffed in there. What else?
We both carry portable soup. Because,
yes,
and a small little, like, we call them corn boilers or brass kettles. I like to carry that even though it's extra weight because, say, we do get firewood, I can make a quick cup of portable soup to drink, and I'm getting the liquid, but I'm also getting protein to refill and everything I need while I'm doing camp chores, so to speak. So I always carry that.
And it makes a good backup if we didn't have the water filter or that failed, that we can boil the water as well. We go. So you're right, the kettles, I have a tiny little kettle in there. It also has basically all my food. My food consisted this week of beef jerky, pemmican that will never end, some dried cheese, a cannon that is not at noon at all. Boy, was there anything else? Bacon, jerky, the hard cheese, the soup, and the pemmican.
I did jerky, the soup, and I did sausage. And I did have cheese, but I very quickly decided I no longer wanted to carry it and chucked it. But that's what I did. I actually started carrying some smaller sized cooked meals that I sell, but that weight got very old after a while since we couldn't actually have fires, so I stopped carrying that pretty much right away. But cold camping is a lot easier. The food's a lot lighter. Yeah.
You guys practice with the Georgia's, put it in something, or how did just the
I actually put mine in a beeswax piece of linen and just wrapped it in that. That's in a lot of beeswax bags.
Okay, because we red wax ours, and that's how we preserve it. It's modern.
That could work too.
Mine was just hard cheese shoved in a leather pouch.
Well, I'm always
Along
worried
with
my
all the other
cheese is
food.
gonna melt into something,
Would
so I
that
wrap it.
hold that leather, would that not
Yeah,
make
it
all
soaks through the leather, but the pemmican does the same thing when it
Yeah,
gets hot in the
that sounds
pack. Is
like-
it starts to ooze through a little, and the leather eventually just becomes more and more conditioned to
Okay.
that grease.
Okay.
Basically,
That's what
makes
I
it really easy to find
Yes, it did.
in the pouch.
Okay, that's out of curiosity. How would you keep cheese from not per se coming with?
So what you do is you find a really hard Irish cheese,
Okay.
because from the research I've done, that is the closest to 18th century cheese you can
Like
get
a-
without making your own. Say that again.
Like Parmesan or?
You could do Parmesan. I do a Kerrygold. They do like an aged cheddar. It'll get kind of hard on the outside, but you can just scrape that off and eat the inside, and it holds up to.
Because I'm a avid hard cheese, sharp cheeses, and that's what I was.
You do a Irish cheddar tends to be the best and survive the best. Parmesan will too.
So a couple of times you mentioned planning and the logistics of planning doing something this big, or even just the smaller
Small ones.
treks. How does the OWL group decide on these? We have 3 levels basically of treks. So you've mentioned light
We
night.
have light night. We have moderate night, which is maybe 2 nights and maybe 5 to 7 miles, and then we have the challenge treks, which tend to be 10 miles plus. This happened to be an extremely challenging trek. Usually challenges are 3 days and 10 miles, 12 miles, because we either walk into a certain point and walk out, or we do a giant loop. As for planning can be it depends on who's in charge of the trek. Usually it's Zan. Zan is usually in charge. She has asked me to start doing some of the challenge treks. And so it becomes, okay, who wants to do it? You start asking around, who wants to do it? How committed are you to doing it? And then it's, does anybody have a place they want to go? She suggested doing Boone's Trace.
Yeah.
And then you start looking at Boone's Trace. Is it logistically possible? How many days can we do? So where would we start? For Boone's Trace, there are too many towns. There was no way for us to be able to find camping or anything like that we normally do.
So that's another one of those logistics. When you say, is this possible? We've got to have distance. We're looking at distance. We're looking at where are we camping? Because there's places where we have to be at designated campgrounds versus other places that will let us free camp.
Here we had to be at designated camps every night. We do one in Indiana because it's kind of the center for everybody. Doesn't care where we camp as long as we clean up after ourselves. So that's where you have to start making the phone calls very quickly of what do you require? Now is it possible? Do you require certain site camps? Is it logistically possible to make it from that ridge down to that ridge in a single day, depending on whatever might happen to you while you're out there? Can you logistically do it without killing yourself? And then you have to look at, as you go along, people will start falling off. But it's, how long do you want to do it? Okay, how many days do you want to do it over? Because then that can, say you want to do 30 miles, but everybody goes, oh, I have a whole week. We have 7 days. So then you have to chop it up and figure out, okay, if we can camp anywhere, it doesn't really matter. We just walk through, we're done. If I have to be here to here, it's like, I had originally wanted to do the sand caves all the way down there, but there was a 20-mile stretch with no camps. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not doing all the way up with no camps somewhere in between. We are not. So that's why we did Chadwell. It kind of was a cut in the middle. So you have to start with that. And then you have to find out what kind of licenses they require, because some of them require permits, some of them require payments ahead of time. Some of them just go, let us know when you get here, and when you leave, we don't care. This one, I started at the Cumberland. I had to fill out all kinds of paperwork, and they gave me a tag, carry it with you, which I promptly left in the car.
And then remembered when we were about midway up one of the 1,000 switchbacks on Chadwell. We're not going back
Not
down
going
to
back
get that
for it.
now.
I'll just pay the fine later. So you have to start with that. Then the second place I go is their water sources, because if there are not enough water sources, the trail's done. And that's where you also start making the phone calls, because not every map that you look at will list every water source. I looked at least 5 different maps, and each one showed me a different source for water. And they didn't match. They didn't show all of them together. So it's laying those maps on top of each other to figure out if there was enough. One trail I looked at had absolutely no water on it anywhere in all 5 of the maps. And I went, that one is not happening because I cannot do 8 miles without being able to refill in some part in time. Nor am I going to carry 3 canteens fully full. So
I did carry 2. I don't have my second one with me, but I carried 2 full. You had 1, but then the modern filter as well. That's another piece of logistic is we try to share that responsibility to try and spread the weight a little on things that we know everyone has to have, like the water.
like with the water filter, for every 2 people, someone has to have a water filter. So 2 people can share. She and I were sharing when we were initially starting. Another 2 girls were sharing one. That way there's always enough and not everybody's carrying it. And then since we were sharing, we would swap weight back and forth throughout the day. That way I'm not carrying all the weight, she's not carrying all the weight. We're both getting equally exhausted at the same time. And then it comes down to one concern we did have also was fire. Are we allowed to have fires? There have been several times. Last year we did a challenge trek in November where our base camp we were not allowed to have fires whatsoever. But by the time we got to the second camp, we were in a different aspect of the park. We were allowed to have fires there. So you have to call ahead and figure out. And sometimes even for here, I was calling the week before. Can we still have fires? Even though you guys had plenty of rain, I was still, can we still have fires? Are we still allowed fires? I also go into what kind of animals are around. Bears were here, so she did the bear bag. And I got the bear spray and all that other stuff and figured out logistics for that. So there's a lot of planning that goes into just that aspect of going, that's the trail we're gonna do on this date. And for us, we wanted to walk into the station during the event. So that's why we picked this glorious week.
Really how it started.
Yeah.
A lot of times it would be the other way. We'd find all these aspects, we'd find a perfect trail and say, hey, look, it would work perfect with this. We started by saying, wouldn't it be cool to walk into Martin Station in our gear at the end of a trek, and then tried to work it backwards as much as possible to make that happen, which is not normally what we're doing, but this was a once in a lifetime sort of event you couldn't not
You can't pass
try.
it up. And then the next
Yeah. Hey, I brushed my hair this morning.
I put on a clean petticoat, so be happy.
Yeah.
The other aspects of planning is I'm a big pusher of practice beforehand. Like I started to say about your packs. Not only do you need to test your packs, you need to test what do you want on your feet. I cannot wear these kind of shoes on the trail whatsoever. They kill my feet, and I'm chucking them within a mile. I can't do it. I prefer barefoot, but this trail is not barefoot friendly. So I did center seams. And it would not have mattered on several of the trails whether I went barefoot, modern shoes or not. I was sliding downhill backwards being a surfer because it was just that wet. So you plan and you practice and you wear them. I will wear my center seams as much as I possibly can outside. And when I'm practice trekking, I'm wearing them as well to get them worked in and figure out, okay, I have a hot spot here, so how do I fix it? If they get wet, they hurt like this. What do I do for that? I also wear my period socks. I do silk and then very thick bottomed wool socks. They survived 2 treks, and this last trek killed them. But it works. It keeps my feet dry, it keeps them safe, and I didn't really blister. Even though I think the last day we were almost wet all the time.
Yeah, our feet were pretty much wet within the first
mile
5 minutes.
Yeah.
Through a creek, and then there were sections where the trail was literally creek. The trail is clear, nice deer path, you come up, it's creek, and you're just hoping on the other side
you can find the trail. I also always say wear your gear when you're out doing it. I get a lot of strange looks, I get a lot of questions when I'm on the trail, but I will go out practice hiking like this. I will pick a 10-mile trail near me, I'll weight my pack for what I think I'm going to be carrying, and then I like to add an extra 5 pounds just in case. And I'll go for a day and just hike it and see what I can do.
And that's one of our requirements for a challenge trek as well, is that you have to be able to prove that you've done overnights before, you can do a 10-mile trek in a day, you have a bit of that stamina. And it's one of the reasons that OWL provides 2 other levels to help people get to that. Start out coming to the light nights where it's walk in a mile with your gear, test it out, see if this sleeping outside hiking combo that we're doing is really for you. Oh, it's great. Build up to bigger distance, and longer days. Who knows, we keep going, we might need to have an extreme challenge level.
I think that's what that was. I'll be honest, my very first light night, I probably walked in with about 40 pounds of gear. Not counting my tarp, I'm down to about 10 to 15. Because I keep finding things going, I didn't use this, I haven't used it twice. Get rid of it. What purpose does it have? Now, some people will keep adding stuff, and I'm like, you can carry it, I don't care.
I actually added the candle lantern for this trek. This is the first thing I've added the entire time.
Mine's leaving. So prepping that way is very important, and we never require that you have to do 10 miles in a certain amount of time. I am a very slow hiker, so I'm usually at the end, and I'm okay with that. And the rule is, as long as I can see the next person in front of me, nothing has to happen. But as soon as since I'm in back, as soon as the person in front of me can no longer see me, they stop until I catch up. And then we stand there for a few minutes because they've been standing however long waiting on me. Now I need a break. And then we go catch, and the next person will turn around, oh, I no longer see it, and it's just this kaleidoscope, so nobody gets too far behind.
It was a little different on this with
one.
only two of us, because I'm a very fast hiker and I'm typically at the front. And so we made agreements when we were out there. Every time there was what we call a reward rock, the rock
Nice
that
big
you
flat
see,
rock.
and thank God I get to sit down, wait off the pack. So any reward rock I stopped at and waited for her. Anytime there's a trail crossing, you never keep going until you can see the rest of your group so that they know which branch of that trail you're taking.
We actually wait for everybody because we don't leave.
Yeah, if there's
Water.
water crossings, if there's other extreme crossings, we were crossing together. And I would, the person in the front, their responsibility is, that rock was really loose and slippery. Maybe we should go up this way. I think the trail is turning a little, and keeping an eye out to be more of a scout for the people coming behind them and shouting out those directions and things that you're seeing on the trail.
Coming down Gibson, there were several very steep inclines that she got to first, and she waited because it was now, okay, how are we going to get us in the gear down safely without none of us going over the side of the cliff, which is right there. And so sometimes it was a lot of logistical, okay, how do we lower it? Do we need to lower it? How are we going to do this? And sometimes it was literally staying as close to each other as we can, going, oh, you step there? Okay, I'm going to step there now. And making sure that we each got down, and then she'd take off and I'd eventually catch up.
And that, you can do all the training in the world you want. You can put this pack on and go to your local forest preserve every day, and you will never be fully trained for what you get when you're actually out on a mountain or on a trek with other people. That's just, you still have to do as much training as possible, probably more than you're doing no matter what, but
it's kind of like collecting firewood. When you think you have enough, you keep going because you don't. When you think you've trained enough, you haven't, you keep going. Because I always say Mother Nature will remind you she's still in charge. Whether your body stops working or the weather kicks up, Mother Nature will remind you you're not in charge and you're not prepared.
And
in some way.
She taught us that lesson on Wednesday.
Several times Wednesday.
Go for it. You want to tell them about the excitement on Wednesday?
So we thought storms were coming because we could hear it all around us. So we just decided we're going to stay where we're at. We borrowed Hensley Settlement's front porch. And we're sitting there, and just a little sprinkle comes through, and we're like, it wasn't as bad as what we thought. This is great. We'll just stay here because it's late. We'll just stay. So we get bundled up and we go to bed because the sun's down. It was like 8 o'clock. We're still talking, but we're starting to fall asleep. I don't know what it was, 10, 11 o'clock.
10 or 11.
All of a sudden I feel a drip in the middle of my forehead. And I'm like, this isn't right. And I wake up to see rain coming in every direction. And the trees doing this great bendy thing. And going, I can't even see the tree that I know is right there because I hang my gear on it. This isn't good. I unrolled my tarp, threw it over me, went, night, and there's nothing you can do. You just have to hope
Well,
that
no,
you don't get blown.
you yelled out, are we safe?
I was half asleep, but yeah.
And I went, sure! And made sure my oilcloth was over my head because it was going every direction all over the
logs.
porch. When we woke up the next morning, there were 2 4x4 patches of dry on that porch that were where we were. And
our gear.
Everything else was soaked.
And that morning we were looking around going, well, we haven't washed away yet. Do you want to try it? We have no choice. And that's something you also have to realize. You hit a certain point where it's just as bad going back as it is forward. And so do you want to go back what you already did, or why not go ahead and see what's up ahead and see how crazier it is? And that's what we did.
Have the choice to go back.
Yeah.
In the 18th century, they didn't have a choice to go back. There wasn't, I'm going back to Connecticut when you got halfway here. It was, I have to keep going forward because I'm hoping that whatever is at the end of this is going to be better. We're very fortunate. We have knowledge of where we're going, what we're doing, where we're supposed to end up, and it can be a constraint on us. It's stressful if you've got 4 days and you have to cover this mileage. We could not have waited for weather a second day.
No.
We had to get down that hill. We had to be here or people would be worried. It was the 18th century and it was still raining the next day. I've got a dry spot. Let's keep waiting.
And just until we could have actually dried everything out or dried it out
And so
enough.
we had to do some suffering that's a little outside of 18th century to match up with our 21st century lives.
And when you're doing this, you have to do it with people you actually like.
You will hate them on the trail at times.
Yes. You told me that several times, and I told you the same thing several times. But you do have to like them to some extent, or be willing to want to get to know them better, because in reality, my life depended on hers. Hers depended on me, even though we are technically in 2000 and whatever it is. It's still very dangerous up there. So your life depends on each other. And that was great because our relationship got better. But at the same time, when we knew storms were coming, we're sitting on the porch going, okay, here's plan A. How does it work? How does it not work? Okay, throw that one away. Here's plan B. And we would go through all of them until finally we had talked them all through and go, okay, this is what we're going to do. If we can't do that one, this is our backup. And you have to be able to trust the person you're standing next to not just want to go, I want to hike the whole thing and I don't care what we're doing, we're going to hike it. No, reality is at some point you might not be able to finish the hike. We didn't finish the hike technically because our maps were so wrong. Even though the last part of the trail was supposed to be flat and easy and everything else, I decided at that point we had a way out safely. I'm not risking the last day, last 10 miles on all of the maps being wrong again. And so I said, no, we're done. We were lucky we could pull out. If it was any place else, we might not have. And we might have had to finish the last 10 miles and hoped for the best. But yeah, that's part of the planning. You have to have some backup plans as well. And then Mother Nature tells you that they're all wrong and you have to try again.
Yep.
So historically, in all of your research, what kind of calamities have you found that happened on the trail? Whether it be the wildlife, Mother Nature in general. You talk about not being able to have a fire. How many forest fires were started by our ancestors as they were trying to get out here?
Probably a lot. I have not seen many documentations on forest fires. I have found several where a scouting party went out and they got surprised and the guys are 15, 20 miles out, but they can't get back in because everybody's been injured in some way and only one guy isn't. And he has to go back the 20 miles to get help. I've seen several of those. A lot of times this is from one station to the next, 3, 4, 5 days. Where they were lucky is they could hunt along the way. They can fish along the way. We're very limited on that as well. I can get a fishing license, but I am not the world's best fisher and I can't eat fish anyway, so it doesn't help. And some parks do not allow hunting. So that's the other aspect. We have to take up space and weight by providing ourselves food. They would pick it along as they went. They knew the plants. They knew the animals to catch. We can't. I mean, I can know the plants. I mean, up on the ridge, about a mile's worth of the trail was blackberry bushes blooming. And I'm like, just a couple of months, we could have been eating blackberries as we walked. So that was part of it. Most of the time, it was just going from one place to the next for scouting reasons, or there was one where a midwife was needed for at least 3 different pregnancies in a fort. So 30 guys went out, 30 miles, picked her up and brought her over and kept her for, I think she was here 3 weeks, and then they walked her back. So that was an odd one that I found. It was interesting, but it was kind of like 30 guys for one lady. Okay, that works.
Have you encountered animals?
Have we what?
Have you encountered animals?
We have. We found a lot of bright orange salamanders everywhere. We did stop at one point and this doe comes charging down the hill and she suddenly stops and looks at us going, who are you and what are you? And I'm like, I don't know what I am, but I'm here. And it took about 5-10 minutes before she could decide what she really wanted to do, and that was kind of go back and watch us for a while. We didn't see any bear. We saw plenty of bear signs.
I saw a toad.
She's all. I stepped on a snake. We were walking the ridge, and I just stepped. And I'm not scared of snakes, I promise. But I did scream because suddenly something under my foot is moving. I luckily jumped that direction instead of that way, which was the edge of the ridge. What else did we see?
There were 2 more deer that were racing down past us, but
Oh, we got woken up by a turkey one morning.
yeah,
All I could think is I wish I could hunt up here because he was perfect. He was huge.
he was gorgeous.
He was nice.
Not a whole lot. Not a whole lot else. Thankful to not see the berries, though. There were lots of signs of them.
So one person.
Yep.
One
Other
person.
person.
Other person. Other than us. He was leaving while we were going up, looking at us like, you guys are weird. What else?
Does anybody have any other questions?
How many treks have you been on, Laura?
I've been trekking since 19, and I've done every one that's been offered since then, so I have no idea. I'm going to say about 20 maybe.
Tell us about Outdoor Wilderness Ladies, the OWL group.
So Outdoor Wilderness Ladies is an all-ladies group where we support each other. I always say we're ladies helping other ladies who just happen to hike. We're a support group for each other. We do a lot of things together. When we do events, we're very interconnected. So if I'm there and I've never been someplace else, she has been, she'll quickly pull me over and set me up wherever. But we're a group of ladies that like to reenact, and we like to push ourselves and try to do immersion events. So that's what our treks are for, is to try and also figure everything out at the same time. You know, how historical can we be? What's your level of historical accuracy? What's all of that kind of stuff. Some of the things that I know we're trying to do it as very correct as possible, but there are modern things you need to take, and it's safety things. A sat phone. If you can afford it, get a sat phone. Because I had to carry extra weight with chargers to make sure we had access to emergency calls out, and because several times, because it was so poorly marked, and we had to walk a creek bed a couple of miles, I was pulling my phone out, pulling up the satellite maps, going, are we where we're supposed to be?
My orienteering will be better on the next one, I promise.
I'm still learning, so we're getting there. But things like that. I am a big pusher to carry Pedialyte or whatever type of electrolytes in case you would happen
We
to
do
be dehydrated.
always carry, everyone's got their own first aid kit.
Yes.
And if there's, you know, the standard, if there's daily medication you need, if you wear contacts, you need those things to just function. Please bring them. Find a period way to package them and hide them in your pack if necessary. Nobody wants to be literally led by the blind.
We do ask that if you're on like blood pressure medications, heart medications, diabetic, to let everybody know. So if you start acting a little weird, we know the steps we need to start taking. Water filtration systems are a must because you can only carry so much with you. What else was there? Bear spray. Some parks, the Cumberland was like, you need to carry bear spray. I don't think I need it. You are carrying bear spray. I went, okay, I'll carry bear spray. The bear bag. We hide the bear bag in a big linen bag, but it's a bear bag inside of a linen bag. You do your best to hide it. There are just some things you cannot not have. I think that's about it of the modern stuff. We carry phones also to prove that we did it, because too many times I carry a phone because too many times I get told, you guys don't actually do this. You go in and then come back out. I'm like, I am not walking up that stinking ridge, turn around, come back down to sleep in a hotel, to climb it again, to cross. No, I'm doing it. Here's proof. So that's about the only modern stuff. And then it's really personal what you carry after that, unless somebody needs something specific. So why do you do it?
I want the escape. So I reenacted for about 20 years, and it's great fun to be at something like this. But when you're out there, it's easier to get in the head of someone from the 18th century. It's easier to forget about the job and the stresses of modern life and really start thinking, what did this place look like when it hadn't been seen by anybody else before? What did it really feel like to be waking up wet and cold and a little bit hungry after a rainstorm, and know that you've got to put your clothes back on and keep going? And it's like a big reset on modern life to be as far away from it as possible. And being up on a mountain like that in clothing that even takes away all the details of modern life is as far away as you can get, basically. So that's why I'm on that.
It's the best immersion event you can do, because you are at some point up there or wherever you're at, you lose all connection to everything, and sometimes that's nice. I know when we were walking on the ridge the other day, all of a sudden I stopped and I'm like, we're really doing this. We're really following real people. And that's why I do, because it's as close as I can get to, like, her being a person coming out here, being ancestors, being the first people out here. This is the closest you can get to it. And it's one of those, it kind of reminds you why you were reenacting. Last year I was trying to figure out why I was still reenacting, and we did a small trek, and I'm like, this is why I do it. Because it's reset so many things. I probably won't mess with anything electronic unless I absolutely have to. For about a month to 2 months after doing one of these, because you realize what you really don't need. I'll get home and television. What's television? I can't stand it. And then
I'm warm and dry, everything's fine. That
I'm
narrows
good.
it down to the only needs in life.
and then you become more grateful of what you do have. And then I go home and I go, I need to do more research. And then it spurs me to keep doing the research to figure out how I can be closer to what they have. I mean, even if I have to use a guy as a resource instead of finding a source on a woman, it's still getting me closer to what I need and to be better at doing this. Any other questions?
The total weight of all of this food that you take.
What I've got on right now is everything I took, and it's maybe 20 pounds. Yeah, I mean it's really nothing, and like you cleared out because you don't have your bedroll on
Yeah,
and stuff.
I did. Because it's on my bed back in camp.
Yeah, this was my bed last night, and I disappeared off into the woods last night, and because they told me I could camp where I wanted, so
there you
I'm
go.
gonna go do that again tonight.
I have found that every trek you shed something.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't need that. You cut it in half the first time.
Yep.
Then you keep culling, and then it's daily needs and daily needs only.
Yep.
So that's funny because mine was a little bit reversed. This is my third. I've only ever done the challenge tracks. My first, I went out with the oilcloth, and it was about that much too narrow for me to actually completely cover myself. So I have added things about that much oilcloth, and I added a candle lantern because I knew, now if I knew that it was going to be a full moon, I can leave that behind. But my night vision is so bad that I knew if I needed to see something at night, it's a new moon right now. There's no light at night.
You also have to realize when you're doing this, you're not going to be comfortable. You're probably going to be just kind of warm, and you really don't need as much food as you think. And I'm always paring down the food.
Yeah.
That's where I'm always constantly losing the weight, is the food. I look at why did I bother to even think I needed this? I'll be fine without it, and it gets thrown. Sometimes on the trail. You just learn that you're not going to actually sleep. You cat nap. You roll, your hip hurts, you have to roll the other direction, and it's just on and
Roll
off all night.
twice and find that you've
Unrolled.
unrolled your entire bedroll.
Yeah, I've done that several times, including rolling out of the tent one time. I would do just a little bit taller than you, so you can go a little bit over, a little bit, and a little bit longer this way. Sure.
I'm just thinking, like, give or take a go.
I carry a 7-foot blanket because my father's 6'7" and I stole his blanket, and it's not coming out with me again. As much as I love it, it's too heavy.
Okay, because my boyfriend was like, do you realize your blanket is huge at home? And I was like, I like it.
Yeah,
He's
that's
like,
the other thing. There is a balance between what size you really need and what weight you really want to carry.
that's why I was
Yeah.
just like,
That's why I say maybe an inch taller than you, because you have a ½ inch up here and a ½ inch, maybe a little bit more. And I like just a little bit over me so I can roll and not completely uncover, and then wake up and trying to find where everything went. I can kind of roll either direction.
because I just bought Mary's, it looks like a sleeping bag.
Probably.
And just like flaps over, and she's like,
Yeah.
put your blanket in there. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So,
Same thing with the tarp. I have a 9x9 because again, my father is ungodly tall. Sorry, Dad. But we just wanted to share. 'Cause
No,
I didn't wanna
she's
spend
not.
Extra money on a tarp to fit me. After this one, I'm buying a tarp that fits me. And I don't need that big one. I'm only 5'7". I don't need a very large tarp. I mean, I can curl up and be perfectly fine. You find very quickly, oh, the tarp that fits me maybe doesn't need to be as heavy. Find a different way to do it. She does what she calls a burrito, so she wraps herself
Yeah,
in
I just
tents,
have a big piece of
which is great
oilcloth
until it rains, and then that's
Hey,
when you
I
want something over.
survived the rain. I
This
had
is
a
true.
dry patch just like you.
But we don't always have a porch.
No. Then I just make sure on an incline when the rain goes towards your feet.
Yeah.
It'll be fine.
So it's figuring that out too, and you're always tearing things apart and refixing things. This time I did not carry more than one petticoat. I did a lightweight wool petticoat. Why am I carrying a spare that's extra weight? I'll change when I get to the stop. I don't need an extra one. If you're female, you will learn that your petticoats can never be short enough. So just pick a shortness and go with it. You might have to tie it up or something.
And there's a lot of that kind of variation. If you had 3 of us here, or 4 of us here, nothing is identical between us. We are not cookie cutters. It's all about this works for me, and talking to other people and finding out what works for you. Could I try that kind of thing?
I do carry a couple extra neckerchiefs because they can be great for, you know, wiping the sweat off or whatever. Or they can get really gross when they get wet, so I change that out and then just tie the other one to my pack and let it dry.
It was one of those things, like I'm a big fan of petticoats right here. And this one's, I'm fidgeting constantly. I'm like, yep, it's got to get cut. I'm done.
And see, I like this
It's gotta be.
petticoat length, but I have never been a fan of a super short one. I have my striped wool one that I wear is actually a little bit shorter. It's about 2 inches shorter. But going up those inclines, it didn't matter. I was still catching it.
That's why I was asking.
Any other questions? Because I believe there's something getting ready to happen. So I don't want to keep everybody too long, but we'll happily talk for as long as you guys want.
I'll pick your brain.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you for coming and putting up with the people you weren't expecting. Thank you.
By the way, the director for this video was fantastic. A round of applause for Miss Holly Bell. by the way. The director for this video was fantastic. A round of applause for Miss Holly Bell. Hi everybody, welcome to another video from Making the Past Present. Welcome to my front porch on a very rainy May morning. Today's video is going to be about trekking. I just did an event this past weekend at Martin Station, their annual May event, where I was asked to fill in and do a talk on trekking and the women's aspect of trekking or scouting, whichever way you want to call it. I just finished doing a 20-mile, 3,605-foot elevation trek that week through the Cumberland National Forest. We went up it was Chadwell Gap, across the ridge behind Martin Station, down Chadwell Gap, and at Wilderness Road Campground is where we ended up ending. I didn't get a lot of pictures, so I may attach them to the end of this, or I may save it and do a different type of video with them later. I haven't decided. But this video is the talk that was done. Jenny Slover kindly came and recorded it, so everybody gets the chance to see it. I hope you all enjoy. If you have questions or comments or want to get more involved in trekking scouting, please let me know. You can message me down here at the bottom of YouTube. You can send me a Facebook message. Just look my name up. And have fun and enjoy. Enjoy like we did doing all of this. See you guys soon. Bye.